Welcome back. 448, 730 AM, 102.9 FM, WTNT. It's Andy Parks, live from the Washington Times, and my guest co-host this afternoon, one Frederick Grandy, who, believe it or not, he and I worked together for a while. I don't know, 7, 8.
We've expunged the record. You'll have to take our word for it.
I don't know. We've done about 1,000 radio shows together, probably.
None of them as good as this, though.
No, absolutely.
You were right to wait.
And not with the caliber of guest we have.
Well, absolutely. And I want to take this opportunity to quickly talk again about what we mentioned earlier. As you know, 5 members of Congress, Michelle Bachmann, Louis Gohmert of Texas, Trent Franks of Arizona, Tom Rooney of Florida, and Lynn Westmoreland of Georgia, members of the Intelligence and Judiciary Committee, respectively, have written these letters to inspectors general asking to at least examine the infiltration or influence of the Muslim Brotherhood throughout these agencies. For this, they have been vilified in the press, accused of McCarthyism, and yesterday, the Center for Security Policy, I think, made a very smart decision in asking Andrew McCarthy, the former special prosecutor, who still, I think, holds the record, Mr. Chairman, for the most successful prosecution of terrorism in this country, that being Omar Abdel-Rahman, the blind sheikh, who tried to blow up the World Trade Center in '93 and would have done it again had he not gone to jail. But Andy laid out a very compelling case as to why these members of Congress need to be supported and not savaged. And I asked him to join us today because he is, I think, remains one of the most articulate spokespeople on this. You can read him regularly in National Review Online, PJ Media, or you can listen to him right now. Andy, good afternoon.
Hey, Fred, how are you? And Andy, great to talk to you.
Well, I'm really glad you could do this because, you know, since you delivered your briefing yesterday, and that's what it was, you've been taken to task in, no surprise, Salon and Mother Jones and the Post. But once again, it seems to me what they're doing is beating up on the messenger. Could you just remind us what your message was yesterday?
Well, I think very succinctly as I can make it, I tried to argue that we have a serious problem with Muslim Brotherhood infiltration of our government. The Muslim Brotherhood is a pernicious organization that avowedly seeks to destroy the United States and the West. That's not me saying that. I'm simply, pretty much quoting what they say among themselves. And I think that the members of Congress who raised this performed a tremendous government service doing it. The fact, as you say, that they've been vilified is just shocking under the circumstances. And there is abundant evidence that demonstrates that that Huma Abedin, for example, which I think it was she who I directed most of my remarks about yesterday, there's abundant evidence of connection between her personally as well as vicariously through members of her family with not only major members of the Muslim Brotherhood, but actually people who've been tied to the financing of terrorism.
And the point you made, because you're a former federal officer yourself, being an assistant U.S. attorney, the vetting process automatically and routinely goes to the connections, the associations, family, friends, and associates.
But it didn't here?
Well, Andy, that's really the point you made, right?
Well, I guess the point is we can't say for sure what her vetting process was because that's what the members of Congress are trying to find out.
Right.
The stunning thing seems to be that somebody with the kind of background and associations she has had was able, for example, to get a security clearance, but we don't know exactly what that process was. We can make some informed judgments about it, though, I think. If the Director of National Intelligence, Clapper, with the record that we have, can get up in front of Congress under oath and say that the Muslim Brotherhood is a largely secular organization.
Which, by the way, was a prepared remark. He wasn't extemporaneously speaking.
No, you're exactly right. He's speaking from a prepared text. So if that's what the top intelligence guy in the country is in there under oath telling Congress, I imagine that, it's reasonable to suspect that maybe the government isn't asking the kind of questions it ought to be asking.
Yeah, Andy, I want to talk to you about John McCain for a second. I mean, he kind of threw a wrench into this whole works right off the bat. And he's been a friend of the left for many years when it comes to this kind of stuff, and it drives me crazy. Give me your thoughts on what he had to say about it.
Well, I guess, Andy, it depends on when you ask. A year ago, and this is not an unknown syndrome, of course, as you know, with Senator McCain.
Yeah.
But about a year ago, when Mubarak was about to fall, he gave an interview to Der Spiegel in which he, basically castigated the Muslim Brotherhood, said he was unalterably opposed to them having any role in post-Mubarak Egypt. And when he was asked what his big problem was with the Muslim Brotherhood, he said that they support that awful Sharia, which is so bad for women. Now that was all true, but a couple of weeks ago, he sung a much different tune with respect to Huma Abedin. And the interesting thing about that is that the connections that we've shown that she has to the Muslim Brotherhood include, in a very big way, her mother, who's written extensively and very ardently in favor of Sharia, and in particular Sharia's treatment of women. So it's a little bit hard to square.
And the other thing that's important, I think, to remind everybody is all these 5 members of Congress asked for was an investigation, an inquiry, which is their constitutional obligation. But, Andy, I didn't want to let this opportunity pass without returning to a point that you made very effectively yesterday, and that is you said when you successfully prosecuted the blind sheikh, you were able to succeed in entering into evidence the fact that this guy was essentially the supreme jurist and arbiter of a pernicious ideology, Sharia, radical Islam, which, despite his failing health, made him very powerful. That put him away for the rest of his life. You then went on to say, not only would all of that be inadmissible in this day and age, but obviously we would all be branded Islamophobes, which, sure enough, you have been. Why is that?
Well, I think what's happened is we've had a cultural sea change. I don't know, Fred, that it would be inadmissible in court if they the rules in court haven't changed, but the chance of it getting to court has changed.
Exactly.
Because somebody has to investigate it, and somebody has to knit it all together, and somebody then has to level the accusation. And if you create a climate in which none of those things can be done safely, in the sense of without being professionally ruined. I mean, you see some of the things that are being said about me today. Why would anybody want to stick their neck out like that? So, what we end up with is people who are very bad people end up having a wide berth to operate.
Yeah. One final thing before we let you run today, because we're closing in on a time deadline here. If you had the power to move this forward in the direction you feel we needed to go, what would you be doing right now?
I would, first of all, make clear that it's important to speak openly and candidly about this subject, and I think everything that we're doing wrong follows from that. And I would most certainly realize that the Muslim Brotherhood is an enemy, not a friend, and treat them that way, which would include not having them involved in the councils of government where policy is made, and where, for example, quite preposterously, they're now being consulted on how we train our agents to conduct counterterrorism. And
to that I would add, by the way, Andy McCarthy is a friend and not an enemy on this subject, contrary to what the liberal media is saying.
Andy, thank you very much for joining us. Good luck. We know you're on the right side.
Some of us have your back.
Guys, I appreciate it very much, but somehow I'm going to manage to carry on no matter what Mother Jones says.
Yeah, we believe you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Thanks, Andy.
Andrew McCarthy.
The guy from Mother Jones was just a nasty little dweeb that kept rattling on about some statement that he'd made, and it was merely a ploy for harassment.
Yeah. 4:58, 7:30 a.m., 102.9 FM, WTNT. It's Andy Parks and Fred Grandy live from the Washington Times. Stay tuned.